Thanks very much for the thumbs up. It is Mantra Monday. It is Monday, February 3rd. We were already into February. And I'm very excited about the mantras that I selected today. Just seems very timely and apropos. The title of this Mantra Monday is Iron Age. The subtitle being, why do we argue? What's the root cause of the argument? What is the atmosphere of these times? How did all this get started? And so I was inspired. This came to mind. This mantras that I'm going to be reciting for you today in Sanskrit, and then giving you the translation, and then trying to give you a purport, some insights or some little realizations that I've had about it, comes from the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the 11th canto, and the locale or the atmosphere and the people who are involved in this are as follows. The locale is a place called Pindaraka, which still exists today, and that is found in India on the coast of the Arabian Sea. And back in the day, this was considered to be a holy place where sages and saints and rishis would gather together on a regular basis to perform different ritualistic activities according to the Vedic injunction to actually bless the people in general. So saintly people are always concerned with others, and they wanted to make sure that on a spiritual level, on a metaphysical level, and on a material level subsequently, that people would be taken care of materially, that they would have enough to eat, that they would be blessed, and that they would also be right spiritually. So this place, Pindaraka, was extremely powerful, and on the occasion of the story that I'm telling today, there were very many powerful sages there, like Vashishta and Narada Muni, who was the head of this particular assembly. All these very powerful transcendentalists who, of course, spend their whole life, performing austerities, who are renounced, and because of that renunciation are extremely powerful and have the ability to foresee the future. So, in Sanskrit, Srimad Bhagavatam 11.1.16. Evam pralabda munayas dan uchaha kupita nripa janasyisyativu manda mushalam kula nashanam. Synonyms: evam, thus; pralabda, tricked; munaya, the sages; tan, to those boys; uchu, they spoke; kupita, angered; nripa, O King Parikit; janasyati, she will give birth; va, for you; manda, O fools; mushalam, to a club; kulanashanam, which will destroy the dynasty. Thus ridiculed by deceit, the sages became angry, O king, and told the boys, fools, she will bear you an iron club that will destroy your entire dynasty. So, moving on, so to make this make sense to you, I'm kind of going forward, then I'm going backwards. The next verse goes like this. Tate ati-santrasta vimucya sahasodaram sambasya dadrisus tasmin mushalam khalu ayah-mayam. So that translation is tat, that; chrutva, having heard; te, they; ati-santrasta, extremely afraid; vimucya, uncovering; sahasa, hastily; udaram, the belly; sambasya, of Samba; dadrisuh, they saw; tasmin, within it; mushalam, a club; khalu, indeed; ayah-mayam, made of iron. The translation: upon hearing the curse of the sages, the terrified boys quickly uncovered the belly of Samba, and indeed they observed that therein was an iron club. So who are these boys? These boys are not ordinary people. They are family members. They are the relatives of Lord Krishna, and they are part of the Yadu dynasty. The Yadu dynasty, which practically speaking was invincible because it was related to Krishna. So Krishna, when he comes in his pastimes, he doesn't come alone. God is never alone. He always surrounds himself with very intimate associates who are there to execute his mission. So this is a unique feature of the Vedas, is that we get an insight into these types of activities and what we call Leela. So now I want to go back and read the lead up to what is going on here. So the Sanskrit is Kridantastan upavraja kumaraya dunandana upasangriha paprachur avinita vinitavat devishayit vasri veshai sambam jambavati sutam Isha prichati vo vipra antarvatni ashiktik shana prashtum vilajati shaksat prabhu mohan darshana prasoshanti putra kama kim svit sanjana yishyati. That was a mouthful. So the translation is, to that holy place the young boys of the Yadu dynasty had brought Samba, son of Jambavati, dressed in women's garb. Playfully approaching the great sages gathered there, the boys grabbed hold of the sages' feet and impudently asked them with feigned humility, "O learned brahmanas, this black-eyed pregnant woman has something to ask you. She is too embarrassed to inquire for herself. She is just about to give birth and is very desirous of having a son. Since all of you are great sages with infallible vision, please tell us whether her child will be a boy or a girl." So the purport, the opening lines are, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta has made the following comment: the impudent behavior of the young Yadus toward the sages, headed by Narada Muni, who were all Brahmins and devotees of the Lord, were a display of deviation from the path of Lord Krishna. Similarly, although Prakrita Sahajiyas think of themselves as intimate associates of Krishna, the supremely merciful Lord's determination is perfectly correct in working to finish such false devotees. Such impostors never accept real service to Krishna. They are called, which is called Sanatan Dharma. The Yadu Kumaro's deception is termed seemingly humble, meaning that in fact they were anything but humble. Therefore, ridiculing of Vaishnavas by the Lord's family resulted in a great offense against the devotees of the Lord. So what this means really is that no one is above transcendental law. The picture that's being painted here is that you had a great, powerful family. They were extremely prosperous and they were extremely blessed because they had the transcendental Lord in their midst at all times. So, over the course of time, they actually became lazy. They began to take for granted their position. They became overly familiar. This is a human tendency that when we have it too good, that we just kind of think that we don't have to make an effort anymore and that we can forego things like etiquette. So a common theme throughout these stories, throughout the Vedas, is basically someone is making a slip up in terms of etiquette because they become too big for their britches and offend a personality, specifically offend a Brahmin, specifically offend a Vaishnava. So this is key to understanding how peace can be maintained in society, because in the Bhagavad Gita and in different parts of the Bhagavatam, the Lord says, the devotees are my heart, right? He puts a Vaishnava even before himself. So it's very important to always be mindful and to be respectful. And if you do commit some aparad, some offense, to immediately go and ask for forgiveness. Now, in this case, Samba is actually the son of Krishna. In this Leela, he is playing that role. So he certainly was not an ordinary person. And he had also a big family of his own. He had 10 sons of his own. So Lord Krishna's son, there were also further family members. And Jambavati, if you remember the pastimes, she is a very special queen to the Lord. This is her son. So this catastrophe that is unfolding has got to be instructive, has got to be didactic, because the people, the personalities that are acting this out are not ordinary living entities. They're actually eternally liberated. So it goes on in the purport to say that the boys, believing the Brahmins, the Vaishnavas, and the Rishis to be foolishly lacking knowledge in material affairs of sense gratification, the Yadu Kumaros dressed Samba, the son of Jambavati, as a woman and tried to mock the saintly assembly. Lord Krishna wanted to teach that such an offense committed against great devotees by his associate Samba would be the cause of the Yadu dynasty's destruction as part of his Leela. So this is misbehavior. So Rupa Goswami, who is one of the direct disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the most recent teacher, instructor, teaching us how to be devotees in this age of quarrel. His commentary, like this from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, is as follows. Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidim Vina Aikantiki Harer Bhaktir Utpatayaiva Kalpate. So if one wants to demonstrate his great devotion to the Supreme, but his process of devotional service violates the standard rules of revealed scriptures such as the Shruti, the Smriti, the Puranas, and the Narada Pancharatra, then his alleged love of Godhead will simply disturb society by misleading people from the path of spiritual advancement. The taking of a woman's clothing by a man in this Leela was intended to point out this fact. Such an act amounts to cheating and ridicule of the devotees. Samba is a personal associate of the Lord, but he's acting in such a way as a harbinger of future misfortunes to be created in Kali Yuga by bogus followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Samba displayed this didactic pastime to help the living entities be blessed on the correct path of devotional service or bhakti yoga. So in other words, sometimes lessons are dealt out sweetly, and sometimes lessons are dealt out like a thunderbolt. So there is an explanation, or it's said, the guru can be soft as a rose or hard as a thunderbolt. So depending on our attitude and depending on our behavior, we will be dealt with accordingly. So in this case, because the Lord could foresee that in the times that we're living in now, that there would be many false prophets, as it were, or there would be many phonies, there would be many bogus so-called yogis stepping forward to cheat people and to give them something, too good to be true, basically, where they wouldn't have to make any effort to actually reform their character, to do that inner work, and to actually treat other people with respect. This whole Leela came about. Moving on, I want to get into a little bit more. I want to go back to what I was saying before. So, thus ridiculed by deceit, the sages became angry, O king, and told the boys, fools, she will bear you a club of iron that will destroy your entire dynasty. Now, the different yugas, or the different ages, are actually associated with different kinds of metals. So, in Satya Yuga, the age of goodness, that is associated with gold, right? Gold is a noble metal. It's a pure metal. It's considered the highest. It can't be contaminated. So this is kind of a reflection of the quality of the age and the quality of the people as well. Not really saying anything new. If you're into Greek legend or Greek mythology, they also talk about the different ages, and they also talk about the Iron Age as well. Now, subsequently, the next age is Treta Yuga. That's the third age, and that is the Silver Age, Vastu. And then the people are still good. The atmosphere is still pretty good, but people are not quite as on the level as they were in Satya Yuga. People live not quite as long. And then you have Dwarpa Yuga, or you have the Bronze Age. So that's definitely a step down. But still, overall, the atmosphere is better, although corruption and such things are starting to creep in. And then you have the introduction of the Iron Age, the age of hypocrisy and quarrel, fighting amongst family members, fighting amongst each other for petty things, reduction of finer sentiments, cruelty is on the rise, a lack of mercy, and so forth. So that is what's being described here. Upon hearing the curse of the sages, the terrified boys quickly uncovered the belly of Samba, and indeed they observed there was an iron club. So these boys, the Yadus, of course, they were playing the way young boys do. They can be rascals, right? If you have teenage boys or young boys, you know how easy it is for them to, act nonsensically and create some mischief. That's nothing new. But here, these boys of the Yadu dynasty, as soon as they heard the words of the sages, they came back to their senses, and they were terrified because they realized now that they had unleashed a misfortune upon their entire dynasty. This is a royal dynasty. There are a lot of family members here. This is after the Battle of Kurukshetra, and they were responsible for the well-being of the entire planet. So the purport says, upon hearing the words of the Vaishnavas headed by Narada, the Yadu boys lifted the garment covering Samba's abdomen and saw the fruit of the offenses they had committed against the Vaishnavas by their deceit. An actual club was there to destroy their dynasty. This example shows that in a polluted society, the club of duplicity can never bring the peace found in the society of devotees, found in a society that is geared by saintly persons. Rather, such duplicity smashes all the non-devotional activities and whimsical doctrines of the pseudo-devotees. The Yadu boys were wary about jeopardizing their advanced position, and indeed had been thinking that as long as they kept their trickery concealed, others would never be able to detect such sophisticated cheating. Nonetheless, they were unable to protect their family from the reaction of their grievous offense against the devotees. So, what does this mean? This means that you cannot go around insulting people. You can't go around insulting learned people, people that have the well-being of the entire society in mind. They're not ordinary people, and they shouldn't be insulted in this way. So normally when you go to touch the feet of a saintly person, you are doing that to get rid of your karma. The saintly person is actually absorbing the reactions of any misdeeds that you have done, and is accepting that as a burden, is carrying that. They're like a conduit. They're there to help purify society. So they're performing a great sacrifice outside of their duties to teach and to guide and to instruct over marriages and so many things like this, teaching children and all the rest of it, and trying to make sure everything is on an even keel in society. So this was really disrespectful. Now, as the story goes on, what happens is that they take this iron club. The iron is a symbol of Kali Yuga, of the age we're living in, and they go home. And they explain what happened to their elders. And so, Ugrasena, who is the head of the dynasty, he takes the club and he makes sure that it's ground down into a fine powder. They managed to grind down the whole club into a fine powder, except one piece of it, which ends up being a triangle. So, okay, so they know that this club is radioactive, right? A club is something that you use to beat and bludgeon someone. A club is something that you use to kill something. So the fact that this lump of iron was manifested into a club was a very direct message, right? It was more than a symbol. Here it was now. So now they're trying to figure out a way to mitigate this curse. So they grind it into a powder. They sprinkle it into the ocean, right, hoping that it will dissolve. But there's also this triangular piece of iron that ends up being swallowed by a fish and later discovered by a hunter named Jara. And the pieces of iron eventually end up getting washed up on shore, and they end up getting absorbed, as it were, into the grasses that are on shore, and the grasses that are grown end up turning into iron clubs. End up turning, yes, they become like iron clubs. They are in the form of grass, but they become iron, right? So as time goes on, about 36 years goes by. Everyone is more or less forgotten about this incident, or at least they've tried to forget about this incident, hoping that they've managed to undo what has happened. And the family decides that they are going to go down to the beach, down to the seashore, to enjoy themselves in the seaside, to go swimming and to sport and all of that. And in the interim of this time, now there is this iron-like beach grass that is grown there. And what happens? They get into an argument. Someone gets into a fault-finding thing with another family member, because remember, these are kshatriyas. This is the princely class, this is kind of the warrior class. But they tend to get caught up in the mode of passion. What does the mode of passion do? The mode of passion is a rajagun, and you become pushed by anger. When you're in satyagun, predominantly, or sudasattva, you're very slow to anger, you know. You're more detached. You can see what's going on. You can see how the different modes of nature are pushing everyone. And because of that detachment and because of that perspective, you are actually able to calm people down, and you are able to guide society, and you are rarely prone to becoming angry unless, in this case, of this story, if it's actually to the ultimate benefit. So when a saintly person curses someone, it's not lodged in a petty reality. It is actually coming from a perspective of a transcendental reality, because the Vaishnavas, they have a long term perspective. They can see what's coming down the pike, not, next week or next month, but in thousands of years, in millennia, in kalpas. This is big. So someone insults someone else in the family, they pick on them, they bring up some past, petty thing that they know is a sore spot from that person, and they go at it and pick on their pride and their ego. And so what happens? The other person lashes out, and as a matter of fact, sees one of those iron sticks, picks it up, and, whacks the other one. And now it's on, right? Now it's a rumble. So all the fighting goes on because this one's picked on this one retaliates. All the people that are affectionately inclined to the person that is now lashing back jumps in the fight. And then, of course, now the other ones jump in the fight. And the outcome of this is that the entire Yadu dynasty, they kill each other. It is a complete annihilation. They kill each other, and that is how it winds down. Seems depressing. Why did I pick this verse? I picked this pastime in Leela today to point out one thing. When there is something cosmic in motion, in the way that we are actually in a very sacred time right now, this is an opportunity to become spiritually advanced very quickly. Kali Yuga is full of a lot of misfortune. It is true. On a daily basis, on an hourly basis, we hear terrible things. However, if we take advantage of the spiritual gem, the spiritual nugget that is left for us, we can actually transcend all of this and in the process mitigate the atmosphere. So I want to say that within the container that we find ourselves in now, this is why the chanting of these mantras and these verses are so important, because they wake us up, they cleanse our hearts, and they show us, while this antiseptic work is going on, that we need to continue to be introspective and to stay on top of our transcendental game, as it were. It is a reality check to not be contentious, to not get into an argument just for the sake of an argument, just to be right. Because at the end of the day, everyone is going to have their own opinion. Everyone should be respected for having their own opinion. And the way to change and to changing someone's heart and to someone's mindset is very rarely through argument, is very rarely through a personal attack. That's not how it works. And certainly not through deceit, by trying to cover things up, by trying to maintain your position. When you insult people that have nothing but goodwill for you, there is going to be an unraveling of your opulence, of your position, of your so-called position, because after all, our positions here are temporary, they're fragile, but they are meant to be based on a firm foundation of respect and societal respect amongst everyone and amongst all these so-called classes, hierarchies, positions, occupations. This is real Dharma. This is Sanatan Dharma. So I'm going to close today by just kind of repeating the translation, because this was a lot of information here. To that holy place, the young boys of the Yadu dynasty had brought Samba, the son of Jambavati, dressed in women's garb. Playfully approaching the great sages gathered there, the boys grabbed hold of the sages' feet and impudently asked them with feigned humility, "O learned Brahmins, this black-eyed pregnant woman has something to ask you. She is too embarrassed to inquire for herself. She is just about to give birth and is very desirous of having a son. Since all of you are great sages and infallible, with infallible vision, please tell us whether her child will be a boy or a girl." Thus ridiculed by deceit, the sages became angry, O king, and told the boys, "Fools, she will bear you a club of iron that will destroy your entire dynasty." Upon hearing the curse of the sages, the terrified boys quickly uncovered the belly of Samba, and indeed they observed that therein was an iron club. So, in conclusion, let's be respectful of each other. Let's be respectful of those who teach us, and let us take shelter of the pure sound vibration that is available to us in this age. While things seem to fall apart around us, I believe that there is kind of a great cleansing that is going on at this time, which of course seems very, very distressing. And there are a lot of disturbing things that are going on. But many times, in order to usher in a new time, there has to be an expose of everything that is rotten, of everything that is unstable, of everything that is weak, of all the deceitful and devious dealings that are going on, in order to open our eyes and for us to understand that we need to get back to basics, that we need to get back to basic principles. So that would be mercy, cleanliness, austerity, truthfulness. Those are the things that we need to get back to, right? Okay. I hope that you enjoyed this. I know that this was a lot. Until I see you again next week, have a wonderful week. Remember to keep calm, cool, and collected. And a lot of more good stuff coming your way very soon. Bye-bye now.